Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. We've had a little break in the action, and well, there's been several reasons for that. One, there've been no Everton matches, so that's it's almost like a sweet release. Not it's weird. I miss watching, but I don't. That's the weirdest thing. It's a very strange vibe this year. So there's that. I just realized I should say my name. I'm Gerry, Maxitarian with me as usual. Gerry, you dumbass, it's been too long. So it's been a while since Everton had a match. Also, I've been sick, and I'm almost full strength, which is cool. So that's good. So we've had good reason to not be around. So that's why we've had a little break in the action. Let's talk Silva's style. There are videos out there about this. There are articles out there about this. And we have watched a lot of matches that Silva has managed this season. Obviously, he's rolled with a majority of the time in a 4-2-3-1. However, it does seem like he prefers a 4-3-3. I don't think there's a whole lot of need to discuss zonal marking. Let's just say it hasn't worked out, so there it is. I just want to get that out of the way now because that's our primary way of giving up goals. So looking back on his teams at Watford, it was very highly dependent on Decore and Capoue being these two kind of linchpins in the back, and then he would have another central player like Cleverly or Hughes to kind of make sure to be swinging the balls left and right and coming back to help out with some defensive responsibilities. And that was that's almost like everything went through those dudes. All right. So let's talk about why that changeover has either worked or has not worked, bringing that kind of philosophy to Everton with the players he has. So Terry, let's talk a little bit about the personnel Silva has and how it works and doesn't work with what he might want to do.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what his style even is. Like, there's been different things at different times in the season. Like earlier in the season, you could easily have said they were a pressing team. Now, the players they've got aren't really suited to being a pressing team. But I think at one point we had like the highest sort of, like winning the ball back in the final third. Like when our forwards lost it, we were the top team in the whole division for winning it back straight away. That doesn't mean you're a good pressing team, but I think that indicative that that's what they're trying to do. We were really good at pressing the passing lanes rather than the plays.
Exactly. That's everything I'm reading is what people talk about is pressing the passing lanes.
Yeah, sort of like, not give the players on the ball from the opposition much opportunity, much option to move the ball forward rather than, the pressing that everyone else does where they just press the man in packs and stuff like that. I don't know, but then at other times that's just completely disappeared and we've tried to play, possession football and passed ourselves into trouble, and I don't know. I don't think he knows what style he wants to play with this team. I think it's a myth that managers get to go in and impose their style on a club. They don't get to do that. Only the very, very top, managers are afforded that, and that's because they can do both. They can adapt to the players, do enough to earn themselves some time, and then change the philosophy over time. Most managers just have to do the first bit and just adapt to the players they've got. It's what Sarri's not doing at Chelsea, but it's what, say, Klopp did at Liverpool. Klopp obviously for a while didn't have the players to play the style he's playing now, but he made the best of it. He played players who clearly weren't good enough to get in the Liverpool team now. So it's I don't know whether Silva is being given assurances that he's going to be in for the long haul. So he's skipping the first bit and trying to play a system that suits the players, and he's just playing a system that he wants them to play. Because right now the system's not working at all. It doesn't suit the players. He's got at his disposal. It's hurting them, if anything. and he just doesn't seem to want to change it. Or he changed it once against Man City and moved to a 4-3-3 and put Tom Davies in at the attack and midfield spot, and it sort of opened the game up for everybody else, and other players seemed comfortable. But then he went. That was sort of like a free hit that game. As soon as it came to a game again where he felt like he could win, the Watford game, he went straight back to what he was used to. No, I think he wants to play that style. He is just going to force the players into it because, maybe he thinks, I'm here long term. The players who get kept are the ones who I want them to be playing this from the word go. I'm not going to play a year of adaptive sort of half measure of what he wants to do. And I don't know. I think he feels like he's going to be here long term, so he's not going to bother with the adapting phase and try and get results now with a way that he doesn't want to play. I think he's thinking, I'm going to play my way, and the players who can do it, they'll be the ones who stick around, and the ones who can't, they're going to go because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've seen Marco Silva's style yet, because I don't think there's enough players who can play it. There's certainly a lot of players who can't.
Yeah, I agree. Firstly, for me, I think obviously when he come in the May last year, he's inherited one hell of a mess in terms of player recruitment, in terms of football and identity. We're really all over the place, and I think his immediate impact was quite refreshing for a lot of Evertonians, because particularly, funnily enough, under Moyes, one of the hallmarks of his side was how the fullbacks would bomb on, and we press really high from the fullbacks, and we try and link up between the wingers and whoever was playing. And I think we saw that from the off. Obviously, Richarlison had a really good start. I know Leighton Baines started the first game against Wolves, but Luca Dean come in and he looked like he'd been playing there for years. And I think once that was sussed out, and how the importance was placed at getting the ball down that left hand side. And I think I know Terry mentioned that we were up there in the stats in terms of cutting out the ball in passing lanes. I'm sure our crossing stats were if not one of the highest in the league as well. And I think that speaks to Luca Dean swinging the ball in on the left hand side a hell of a lot. I think we've tried to, obviously, as I said, once that's been sussed out, we've tried to up the ante on the right hand side, and I think that's where the wheels have fell off a little bit, because I think Coleman's getting exposed as he's getting on, and I don't think Walcott's the correct profile of player for a Marco Silva team. Another issue I have with it almost, and this will only be solved over time, is that there seems to be a really heavy emphasis on playing out from the back, in particular against teams that are below us. I think we regard ourselves as the seventh best team in the country, and we seem to have an adaptive game plan whenever we play a member of the top six. For example, if you look at the game at Chelsea away, where we seem to press them till halfway and make it tough for them, and that was an impressive performance. But I feel like once we've come up against one of these teams that we view as below us, if you like, I think he's really tried to force out some sort of play, some identity, where he wants us to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And this is where I think the Martinez comparisons come in, because it seems to be this kind of suffocating possession game that we don't really seem to get anywhere. All it seems to do is feeding the balls out wide, putting it into the box. And obviously, and a big example of this, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later when we preview the Cardiff game, is the Cardiff home game where we just got past them 1-0. That was effectively like 11 men behind the ball that we had to try and break down, and we've had to come up against that quite a few times this season. And it seemed like a real difficulty for us now. I think that some of the players are looking leggy, and our strength and depth has really been exposed as the season's gone on. So in terms of being thin on numbers, we've got players that don't suit the identity of what he wants to play. And I think that's what's costing him at the minute, because what is it? It's something like 12 league losses so far this season, and I think we've just had 3 on the bounce. So, we are certainly going through a rut, and it's down to him to change that.
It's the playing out of the back is indicative of this. What's funny is it's a patient style. And that's the thing. I never identify Marco Silva with possession. That's what's weird about this. It's almost like it becomes possession because we can't find our way in. It becomes possession because we can't crack in from anywhere other than bombing everything down the flanks and crossing. That's the only way we're able to find our way in. So, and if that is closed off, it becomes this possession type of game. I don't think he wants to play possession. I think he's preaching patience, which is cool. Patience is great, but if you're not creating enough opportunities, when you have a bunch of players who aren't very clinical and are suffering a crisis of confidence right now, which they are, then you're not going to have enough opportunities to actually score.
And to counter that as well, I know you said, like, obviously it seems to be a key element of a top side playing out from the back. One, I don't think we've got the defenders to play out from the back.
We'll have a conversation about Zuma later on, by the way, in a different segment.
And I don't. Obviously, this is. I'm not wishing him away in any sense. I think he's probably our most important player. I don't think Pickford's suited to having a defence in front of him that wants to play out from the back. I'd love us to become more of a counter-attacking team and play to Pickford's strength almost. I know his distribution's hit and miss at times, but how much more effective do we do? I mean, when he gets that ball and he puts his head up and he sees someone bombing it on and can pick them out, like it makes us play a hell of a lot more quicker, and that patience game is just cut out straight away. It saves Gerry and Michael Keane on Zuma, whatever it is, dropping back, him rolling the ball out and us trying to pick out how we're going to play, because I genuinely believe a lot of teams have sussed us out now. If you pressure us well enough, key example of this being when we played Manchester City away and we tried to play out from the back. I think formation's a completely different thing that we haven't even touched on, because he's tried a range of formations now. He's tried the 5 back, 3 back, and that Watford game I think was the worst of the lot with what he attempted. But the way we try and play out in the back sometimes, I think we just need to start saving ourselves the trouble. We give Dominic Calvert-Lewin a run in the side and, start pumping the ball up to him, see him.
Calvert-Lewin up top is going to win more in the air than any of our other striker possibilities. That's another reason I was thinking maybe why he likes to play out of the back, in that we just do not have much success winning the ball when it comes off of Pickford's foot. We usually give in on headers almost every single time, because we don't have, our most physical presence isn't very tall, and that's Cenk Tosun. And Cenk Tosun is not a big, tall guy. These big, tall center halves are effectively getting over him, and they're winning like everything in the air. So we're giving up possession almost every time we do that. So it's weird trying to figure out the smartest way to do it. And I'm under the impression that Silva's style, we're still trying to figure that out, is dependent on the defense being able to play out of the back, and players like Sigurdsson or whoever, like Tom Davies, being able to check to and whip the ball around and churn it out quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you think about that midfield. Who has the ability to, put the back to goal, receive the ball from the defence, pick their head up and turn. Only Andre Gomez, really. And I think, I think that's why he was such a fan favourite once, he started getting in the groove of playing, because he was so effective in, he pick the ball up, turn, drive forward. Idrissa Gueye can't do that on the ball. His on the ball skills are very limited. Sigurdsson, positionally, I think Sigurdsson probably deserves a video on his own, because he's having a good season in terms of his stats return, but arguably it could be a lot better. But yeah, Andre Gomez, I think a lot depends on Andre Gomez, and that goes to what we were saying before about when he was at Watford with Capoue and Decore. I think Andre Gomez is of that mould. Possibly a lot less powerful in terms of physicality, but that swan-like presence of being able to turn and guide the ball forward. Don't think we've got many midfielders that can do that.
Silva's Watford preferences didn't really have a number 10 type of player. All right? No one was really very much like Sigurdsson. All right? It was more in the realm of a Tom Davies type player. Which, to me, you're right, Sigurdsson's having this killer stats year in terms of he's scoring a lot of goals and whatnot. However, Sigurdsson may not necessarily fit what Marco Silva is trying to do and would prefer to do. And that's going to be a really interesting conversation between now and the summer. I'm curious as to how Silva actually feels about it. Because we know Sigurdsson's a badass and he's one of my favorite players, period. You know?
Yeah, but I think it just comes full circle to what I was saying earlier, poor recruitment from past regimes.
We're really suffering in terms of paying out to players that don't actually play for us. That's probably the biggest issue with Everton Football Club right now. Exhibit A, Sandro. And then there's another Exhibit B through like Exhibit X.
And I'll tell me about it.
So yeah. Anything else we want to I honestly think we're going to continue seeing some experimental, lineups in terms of playing around with certain players in certain positions to see if they can fit what Silva wants to do.
Yeah, and I've got to be honest. Like I said for the Watford game, although I wasn't a fan of what I ended up seeing on the pitch, I don't mind them playing out with the formation, trying to suss out what our best system actually is. Like, ultimately, there's nothing left to play for. We're out of both cup competitions. We're not competing for top 6, top 4. I think there's a gap of over 10 points between 6th and 7th. That's not happening. So, be experimental, get some of the young lads in the team, and as I say, try and find this identity.
So, in summation, all right, if Marco Silva has a style, which I'm not sure if we're totally convinced he does at this point, considering we don't really think he has the players he needs to be able to play that way, right? Pressing the passing lanes, typically running a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, probably more of a 4-3-3 is probably more of what he wants to do, right? Attacking on the flanks for the most part, and being patient, possibly to the point of overly patient, and that's probably. Can we think of anything else stylistically that we need to mention that would sort of encapsulate what we're seeing from this Everton squad this year so far? And the zonal marking thing, which obviously has been a total nightmare.
No.
Yeah.
But however, it may not be zonal marking, and maybe the players. Terry's mentioned that in previous stuff. So.
Whatever it is, it needs to change.
It could just be a bunch more experiments, guys, this season. So, I don't know. I will say Tom Davies getting in there and getting a fair shake lately and kind of making the best of it. It's cool to see. It's cool to see, and actually could be a good fit. So, we could be getting more of an idea the more he starts discovering. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to keep doing these type of segments because we're actually going. This is an ongoing process. We're going to keep learning. All right. But for now, that is it for Marco Silva's style. If you've been digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We'd sincerely appreciate it. If you want more Terry, check the Liverpool Echo fan jury. He drops his Everton knowledge on there when you're lucky. Also, Maxwell House, he shows up all over the place. Keep an eye on both these guys' Twitter. They'll tell you where they are. But Max has a nice shiny new piece for the Toffee Blues website. So check that out. There's good stuff. These gentlemen are smart, and I endorse them. All right, we're gonna move on. We've got a loan to perm. Gonna be talking curly hair, so get ready for that. All right, that's it. Bye.